Good.
Hi, Katie McClelland here. Out of the thousands of yoga poses available to us, there are a handful of poses that I feel deliver the most impact and the most benefit in the least amount of time. So join me in this short video and just experience some of these poses that you can incorporate into your daily routine if you don't have time to do a full-length yoga practice, whether it's at a studio or at home. So I've got my yoga mat here. I've got a couple of yoga blocks. I've got a yoga strap, a bolster, and a blanket. If you don't have these things at home, that's okay, you can substitute. So instead of the yoga strap, you could use a bathrobe tie or even a necktie or a jumping rope. With the blocks, you could substitute a hardcover book. The bolster, you could just grab a firm pillow, and of course most of us have a blanket or a throw somewhere around the house that we can use. So the first thing I want to show you is a move called shoulder flossing, and it's a really important mobilization tool for the shoulders because we tend to walk through life with our shoulders rounded forward, our chest muscles overly contracted and tight, and our upper back muscles overstretched and weak, which by the way, it's those overstretched, weak upper back muscles that gives you those chronic knots and aches and pains in your upper back. And we often think that we can get rid of those by stretching them out, when what we really need is the opposite. We need to open and stretch the chest, and we need to strengthen the posterior side of our body, our upper backs. So this can help do all of that. So you can do this kneeling, seated, or standing. I'm grabbing my strap or my bathrobe tie. I want to roll the shoulders back, sit up nice and tall so that my ears are stacked over my shoulders and my shoulders are stacked over my hips. And then I keep my arms perfectly straight and take a big breath in to reach the arms up. And then as I exhale through the nose, I'm going to take the arms behind me just about a third of the way. And I'm going to be really careful not to puff my chest out too much and to not jut my head and my chin forward. So I'm trying to keep that alignment of ear over shoulder, shoulder over hip, even as the arms go back. And then keeping the strap pulled taut, I inhale overhead and I exhale down in front of me. Now if I can handle that stretch in the shoulders, this time I might go a little bit further. Again, being aware of my posture. So making this as much as possible just a pure movement of the shoulders, the arms moving in their sockets. And then I might find I'm actually able to take the arms all the way back behind me. So I inhale as the arms come up, and I exhale as the arms come behind. And just notice how I'm keeping my arms perfectly straight. If you find that you are needing to bend one of your elbows like this, it means that you're kind of trying to compensate around a really tight spot in your shoulder. And so in that case, you would take your hands a little bit wider apart so that you can really keep the arms straight and move through all those little sticky nooks and crannies in the shoulders. If you can handle more sensation, then you can take your hands a little bit closer together and go back and forth this way. So make sure you use your breath as you move through these shoulder flosses. Big inhales through the nose as the arms come up. Full exhales through the nose, or if you need to, the mouth as the arms come down. So I'm going up and down this way. And after maybe 5 shoulder flosses, it's nice to roll the shoulders out, move your neck around a little bit, even stick your tongue out, because you can get really tense through your tongue and through your jaw. And then once you've done that, you could do a few more. I would recommend doing at least 10 a day, really slow, really mindful. And if you want to add in some variations, you could do a lateral side bend. Again, you could do this kneeling or standing. I've got my left arm pulling down, my right arm pulling up. So I'm mirroring you. If you're looking at me, I'm doing the same side that you would be doing. And if I come over to this side, I'm pulling down with the right hand, up with the left, and trying to breathe into my left ribs, stretching out all these muscles, the intercostal muscles between the rib cage here. So back and forth, this is a really nice way to energize you if you're feeling tired. Lateral side bends really tend to wake us up. It's a really, really effective way to energize. And then I'll just finish with one more coming behind and one more up and then down in front. So there are your shoulder flosses. So the next pose I would recommend that you incorporate into your daily routine is one of the safest hamstring stretches and hip mobilizers you can do. And the reason why it's so safe is because the floor keeps your back in a neutral position. If we try to stretch forward from a seated position, chances are we're going to round our spine too much. Same thing goes if we try it from a standing position. But if we lie down, then we've got the floor just without any effort at all, keeping our spine nice and neutral. Now, if you lay down and you find your chin is sticking up, that usually means you've got a lot of tightness in your upper back and your shoulders. So I would recommend putting a blanket under your head. Put as many as you need to so that you get the chin just a millimeter or two lower than your forehead is what you're aiming for. So I'm going to do my left leg first here. I'm looping the strap around where the ball and the arch of the foot meet. And I'm going to make a simple tie with the strap as if I were tying my shoes, and shorten the strap up just enough so that my arm is straight. The shoulder will lift a little bit off the ground, but I want my shoulder blade to be connected to the ground, okay? I'm going to work to straighten this leg as best I can, and I'm really firing up this leg. So I'm firming my quadricep, I'm opening up, yawning open the back of this knee. I'm going to reach up through that heel and also press down through the hip or the buttock. If I can hold this leg perfectly straight at a 90-degree angle, then it's safe for my lower back to extend this right leg out along the ground, okay? If I'm sort of here, this knee is bent, I'm finding there's a lot of shaking going on, it's really, really intense, or maybe my leg is kind of in this position over this way, then I want to keep this leg bent, this foot flat, because it's going to give my lower back a little more help to help keep that leg lifted. If you straighten this out, you may find you really experience an unpleasant tug on your lower back. So just check that out. Make sure if you're going to straighten this leg out, you've got this leg straight and perfectly perpendicular to the floor. After I hold here for a few breaths, and in my case I can straighten this leg out, I'm going to turn this leg out as much as I can. So I'm going to try to face my toes towards 10 o'clock, or even aiming for like 9 o'clock. So this is called external rotation of this thigh bone. I'm really trying to find maximum external rotation. And then I want to keep this hip flat, and I'm going to take this externally rotated leg out to the side and up towards my left ear, okay? I'm not going to let this side of my pelvis pop up, and I'm not going to lose the internal rotation of this leg. So I'm really corkscrewing the leg up so that this heel presses up towards the ceiling. After I stay here for maybe 30 seconds, I'm going to really recommit to straightening that leg as much as I can. Remember, you can have this knee bent if you need to, and I bring it back to center. And then switching hands with the strap, extend your arm out. In my case, it'd be my left arm here. And I'm going to take the leg over to the right while keeping both buttocks close to the floor. So I'll feel stretch through the calf, through the IT band. And this is really intense. It's just a subtle movement, but you can really feel it in the leg and the hip. And then you come back to center. You might want to give a final little pull, final little hamstring stretch. Let it drift down to the floor. You're going to notice how much longer that side of your body feels, how much more spacious it feels. And then you can draw the knees into the chest and then switch sides and do it on the other side. So one of my favorites for sure, it's called Supta Padangusthasana. So another pose I would recommend you incorporate into your little yoga routine is Happy Baby. So Happy Baby is essentially doing a squat position, which is really good for our digestion, really good for our lower back, for the toning of the pelvic floor, for hip mobilization, lower back health, and all of that. Really kind of hits a whole bunch of areas that we typically miss. We don't squat in our daily lives at all, so this is a really important pose to do. And it's fun as well. So I'm holding on to the outsides of my feet, and I'm flexing my feet as if I were standing on the ceiling. And I might want to rock a little bit, alternating, straightening one leg out a little bit and then the other. If I find I can't reach for my feet without really hiking my head and my shoulders up, then the way you would modify this is to simply hook your arms underneath your knees and just relax your legs like this, and you just go back and forth this way, okay? If you did my beginner yoga series with me at the studio at De La Soul Yoga, you'll remember we did a squat position up at the wall laying on our backs with our feet against the wall. So that's an option as well. It's a really nice way to open up the hips and give your lower back some relief. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some cat-cows and a downward dog, two of my other favorite poses that I want to include in this video. And then finally, I'm going to just show you a really beneficial way of reclining on your back. So cat-cow. This is a spinal mobilization exercise, and it really helps you to develop a relationship with your spine and to get to know how your spine moves and where things might be a little bit stuck or a little bit stagnant in your body. It's very simple. You just come to a tabletop position and you stack your hands underneath your shoulders, spread your fingers wide, and make sure your index fingers are pointing forwards on the mat. So really be mindful that your hands aren't turning in here at all. That's a really common misalignment. So I want you to get on top of yourselves and really look at your hands every time you put them on the mat and make sure that you're erring on the side of turning them out a bit. You'll notice I've got my baby fingers just about touching the outer edges of my mat. So that's how wide apart my hands are. If you're a big guy with a broad chest, you're probably going to want to have your hands slightly wider than your mat. So ring finger and baby fingers off the mat. And then I've got my knees stacked underneath the hips here, and my knees are about a hip's width apart. And all I'm going to do is take an inhale through the nose, and then as I exhale, I scoop the tailbone under, round the spine, tuck the chin, and look towards the belly button. On an inhale, I'm going to reverse that. So I drop my belly, I lift the tailbone up, I shift a little bit of weight forward, my arms stay straight, and I open up the chest and the throat gently. And then again to reverse. Exhale, I rock the weight back just a little bit, tailbone scoops under, head hangs as I look to the belly button. And then reversing that, I roll the pelvis forward, I lift the tailbone up, drop the belly, and open up the throat. So I would recommend going through at least 10 of these, and you can do this with your eyes closed. And if your body wants to move in different ways, go ahead and move the spine laterally or side to side, whatever feels good for you. Another nice way to create some space in this sequence of cat-cows is to actually come up onto the pads of the fingers. So I find when I do this, I feel a little bit of extra room up through the upper back, which is really, really nice. So from this position, you're in a great segue. It's a perfect segue into downward facing dog. So to come into downward dog, walk your knees back just a little bit here, so they're slightly behind the hips. Curl your toes under, press into the ground so your upper back gets a little bit puffy. Be really careful that your head's not hanging off the spine here. You want to draw the tops of the ears up towards the ceiling as well. And then just lift your knees up an inch or two and hold for a couple of breaths. This is called bear pose, and it's a great core strengthener. You'll feel your midsection fire up right away as soon as you lift your knees up. So you can test that out a few times. If you need a little break, you just sit your hips back to child's pose, another one of my favorite poses. So introspective, so calming, so quieting for the nervous system. And then when you're ready, you come back. And this time I'm going to lift the knees up, but I'm going to start to push the weight back off of the hands so that my hips move up towards where the wall meets the ceiling behind me, and my ribcage and my belly start to move closer to my thighs, okay? Once I've got the biceps lined up with the ears, I want to look at my feet and make sure that my feet are about 2 fists width apart. So if I were to go back and measure, I've got about 2 fists width between my feet here, okay? So what I'm trying to do is form an upside down V position with my body. And for those of you familiar with downward dog, you might think the goal is to hold the pose with your legs straight. That's actually not the goal at all. Eventually, if you're flexible enough, you might be able to straighten the legs and put the heels down, which is great. But the actual goal of this pose is to keep the spine long and to keep the weight moving off of the hands. So for most of us, that means we need to bend the knees and really just kind of slacken the hamstrings so that we can get that length and that weight moving back. So you see here, if I were to start to straighten my legs and my back started to round, kind of like in my cat pose like this, then I would know that I need to hold this pose with my knees bent, get the tailbone lifted, right, and try to find that length in the spine again. You could always alternate legs like this and just stretch out your calves if you like. So I wonder if you could work up to holding downward dog for 30 seconds or maybe even a full minute. When you're in this pose, make sure your head is completely relaxed. Okay? You can shake it out a little bit, your face is relaxed, your breath is smooth, and again, the weight is moving off of the hands. Okay, so lastly, I just want to take you through one of my favorite reclined postures. It's a gentle heart opener, gentle hip opener, really calming for the nervous system, really great if you have insomnia or anxiety. So I've got my bolster and I'm lining it up with the base of my spine, and I'll grab my blocks here and just put them underneath my thighs like this with the soles of my feet together. If you're tighter through the hips, then put your blocks up on a higher height. Make sure they're really supporting the weight of your legs here. As I lie back, I'm going to hold the bolster to make sure that I'm centered on it. And then I put a blanket underneath my head just to keep a little bit of length in the neck, again, so that the chin is slightly lower than the forehead. I might want to lift the hips up and just move the tailbone a little bit or the buttock flesh. The goal is to feel really long through the lower back. And then I simply roll the palms open to face the ceiling, and I give over the full weight of my body to the support of the bolster, the blanket, and the blocks. And I just simply breathe a natural breath here in and out. If this is too much for the hips, option to rest with your feet flat, your knees bent, toes turned in, and knees touching. So this is a really nice way to just take the hips out of it and just make it more restorative and opening through the chest. So I recommend staying here for a minimum of 3 minutes, but stay there as long as you're able to. And that concludes my video of some of my favorite yoga poses. I myself already feel so much more mobile and open just from moving through those simple postures. So enjoy, take care of yourselves, and namaste.